This is a regularly scheduled meeting. And we're supposed to start at 5:30. It is 5:33 p.m. We'll go ahead and begin. We asked Councilman Roosevelt if he could give us a prayer, and then we'll recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our dearly Father, grateful to meet as a city council to discuss the needs of Roosevelt City. We're grateful for the people that live here, the residents of Roosevelt City. We're grateful for the people that serve in the city offices and those that help protect us, as well as those that help to keep the city running. We're grateful for this country we live in, for those in the military that serve and protect us. Please watch over and protect them. Please bless us as we make decisions about Roosevelt City, that we can do things in a way that will benefit the residents of Roosevelt City. We're grateful for this land we live in, as was said, and hope and pray that we'll always have those freedoms that we enjoy. We're grateful again to thee, and we say this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Center attention. Oh, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
So as far as roll call goes, would you guys rather me just say we're missing Councilman Allen?
Yes.
Okay. And he said he would probably be here just a little later. Are there any amendments or corrections to the minutes that need to be made?
I didn't see any, so I move to approve.
Motion in a second by Councilman Cloward. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We do have our public comment period. Our pedestal has moved slightly, but if you're here and would like to make comment, you can have up to 3 minutes to address the council. Are there any here tonight who would like to take that opportunity? Seeing none, we'll move on with our agenda items. We have our action items, JUB, task force. Well, is JUB here?
No, Kirby's going to present us.
Okay.
I said here, right? Hopefully you guys have had a chance as a council to review the JUB task orders. And I passed out an email stating some of the things, why they're asking for the increase. And with that, my recommendation would be for the council to review, obviously, and sign these task orders. And I do have the task orders here, if that's something you can sign tonight.
Do we need to, for public record, to
Yeah, so
state what they are?
one of them, I think the first task order is, we have a contract with JUD, an annual contract, and we have allotted a certain amount for that annual contract. And they have overrun that amount by what,
3,000.
3,000.
Yes.
Okay, and so that's one of the task orders is to, go ahead and sign the contract, well, not sign the contract, but agree to pay them the extra.
Yes.
And then the second task order, Kirby.
Is for it to be at the 13,000 instead of the 10.
For future.
Yeah, for
For the next year.
Yes. Once for 2022, once for 2023, correct? Yes.
And just, I don't know what, we have our, where did we go? There it is. Our chair of the airport, you work with JUB. What are your thoughts as far as the service they provide?
I like JUB. They seem they're pretty on top of it. They find us a lot of grants to help pay for the airport, so I'm in favor of them.
They've done a fantastic job in my own opinion.
I agree.
I agree too.
And Mayor, if I can add to that as well, JUB has been phenomenal. They've been one of the best engineering firms I've ever worked with, and especially with the airport. Kimberly's second to none. She is fantastic. And we're definitely getting an incredible bang for our buck with this agreement.
$3,000 compared to the amount of money that they brought to our airport. I mean, it's nothing compared to what they've done.
Just are we gonna have to then redo the budget for the 3,000, or is that something?
Potentially, yes, we may have to open, we'll be opening up the budget probably next month to make a few adjustments anyway, so I'll have that for sure by then,
Okay.
but, yes.
Okay. Well, I think they've done a great job, so I move we approve both task orders.
Okay, and that's task order 45-23-009-001. And then same number as amended.
That's
Yes,
the
correct.
second one.
Mayor.
is- Yeah,
No,
The second one is 45-22-009-001.
okay.
So the first one is 23, the second one is 22.
I didn't want to read all those numbers, I do not do that. So.
Changed it.
But I move we approve both task orders. That's my motion, and the mayor read the.
I'll second the motion. I just as a note, that, she provides an email with a list of things that she's done in addition
Yes.
to what was existing in the original contract, and I think it's well worth the money, so.
We have a motion and a second by Councilman Baird. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. We have discussion on fee schedule changes, aquatic center, golf course, recreation, airport hangars, et cetera.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll introduce this one. So as you know, we have a fee schedule, and periodically we like to review that and make sure our fees are in line with where they should be. We've asked our staff to work on those different fee schedules to make sure they're at the appropriate place. We're not amending it every other month. So at a work session is the perfect time to start that discussion. And so we have some division managers here that are going to present on their fee schedules, what their recommendations are. Again, with it being in the discussion section, we're not asking for formal approval. We just want to make sure we're headed down the right way. And then as of right now, for example, I will give you a preview of the golf course. The fee schedule for that will not be presented tonight because the golf committee did not meet last month. They are meeting on Valentine's Day. They will have a formal recommendation for that at next work session. So the amended fee schedule will be proposed for an action item at the second March meeting. So, but we will address some of those tonight because we do have it on the agenda. So the first thing is, well, since we have Kirby here, we'll have the airport hangar leases. And actually, I'll handle that one, Kirby.
Okay.
Since the reason I wanted that one on here is we do have hangar lease agreements as a discussion item. And we just want to make sure council knows that we do have a section in the fee schedule for hangar lease agreements based off square footage. We also have hangar lease agreements where we are charging a flat rate for those. It will be up for council's discretion to decide, do you want it in the fee schedule by square footage, or do you want it managed through the actual the agreements that we're doing, the lease agreements?
Just a question, do we have, because all the contracts that I've seen or lease agreements that I've seen are always by the square footage. Which ones do we have? The only one I can think of that's not by the square footage is the main hangar.
Is that
Correct.
correct? Yeah. So in there, in some of the old ones, it would say increases by 3% each year.
Yeah.
And so we just need to make sure the fee schedule aligns with that. And if we want the ones in the main hangar as well. All of the lease agreements are getting reviewed right now. Airport Board has reviewed some, they've made recommendations. Grant is actually working on some proposed changes there. They're not for discussion tonight. So this was more of an FYI that we have these different locations for the lease hangars. We just need to make sure it's the same one on the same page. And so that's more of an FYI for council that it is in the fee schedule. And if we want to continue that way, we'll make sure it aligns with the lease agreements that the airport board has been working on.
If we were to, because I know in some of those agreements, it's 3 or 5% depending on which agreement you have. I think yours is 5%, mine's 3%.
Mine's at 3, because I just
Okay,
went
maybe
over.
mine's at 5.
It could be,
And some of the verbiage in those, and we don't have them in front of us today, mine says can be negotiated, but that isn't a guaranteed rate increase, which I think we need to straighten out. And then, I think that's about it. Really, part of this is we're trying to simplify those lease agreements. They were fairly simple, and then for reasons we don't want to delve into right now, they got very, very complicated. And now we're just trying to back those back down to as simple as they can be and still, and still protect the city and meet FAA requirements. So.
Thank you, Mayor. So with that, with the lease agreement, we'll now turn the time over to Edwin. He'll come present his, and now you'll see where the bar is going to be set really high for our division managers. Edwin has done a lot of work, and a lot of effort's gone into his presentation of why the fees should be adjusted where he's proposing.
All right, thanks, buddy.
All right. I try to keep this as organized as I can for you guys. So you can see my summary of the changes I'm looking to on the first page. The ones I want to make sure you guys are kind of looking in front as we go through this is the first page, the second page, and the third. Between those three, you're going to be seeing my proposal as well as what we currently have on our rates between those 3 pages. So kind of going through off the summary, with the aquatic center, our subsidy has been increasing each year since we opened. We fully expect that. We know we're not going to be making money at the pool. That's not what we're looking into, but it is increasing quite a bit. And our expectation this year is to be over $500,000 in our subsidy. So with that, I'm wanting to see different things we could do to help with that. With that objective, if you look down to, I still want to make sure we offer fair rates. That's the first thing I want to make sure is noticed to our community. It's not right to, bring that so high up that it's going to shut the doors to the community. So I want to make sure that balance is still there, that we can offer that as an option, as well as keeping it comparable with our neighbors and similar facilities like what we have too. But also if we can find reasonable ways to decrease that subsidy. Going through some of the items that I have down. So the first one I'm looking at is our daily admission prices. Looking from different facilities, we haven't adjusted this since we opened either. My thought was to be looking into try to make it an easier number for youth to try to bring money to the pool as well as the adults. I've seen every facility really I've been to, mostly that they're just round numbers. There's no change behind it. I think that would also help with our current situation where coins are kind of at a shortage too, and it's been kind of hard for us to get a hold of coins at the bank. We're actually limited to what we could get roll-wise. Where I'm not trying to make it too much of a huge change, my proposal would be still in discussion. Like I said, I'm not looking for this to pass today, but a $4 for youth, adult $6, senior $4, military, veteran, and first responder for the admission. I don't know how you want me to go through this. I could keep going through each bullet point. If you guys want to pause me, I'm just trying to make sure I'm not spending too much time on this.
Do we have what our current rates are?
Correct, yeah. Page 3 is going to show current rates.
Okay.
Page 2 is showing the proposed. So you could actually get a comparison between actual and proposal. And anything that I'm going to talk about tonight are the changes that I'm proposing. If I don't talk about it, like for example, swim lessons, there's nothing really I'm adjusting. I'm only looking for things, I'm only mentioning what we're going to look to change. Any other questions before I continue? Okay. I want to see if we can simplify our membership options. We are actually up to about 36 membership options when we split everything up from our annual for their 2 different types of premium, basics, as well as a 6-month of the same kind and 3-month as well. I'm wanting to see if we could just cut the basics out and give everybody a premium option.
What is the difference between a basic and a premium?
You know that is the number one question we get all the time. And really it's not much of a difference as what I would have wanted when we first started. So really a basic, you could either have it for just open swim, and that's all the membership is good for, or you could have a basic set for just lap swim or water aerobic times, and that's all it's good for. Premium will get you into both of those options and any special activities that we offer throughout the year. Where it's so split up, a lot of people think it's confusing seeing that many prices on a page too. I'm wanting to see if I could cut that in half and see if we could actually just offer an annual, a 6-month, and a 3-month at the premium rate we've already had before. Questions on that so far then? Okay. Also, I would.
If I go to the gym membership and I only want to use the barbells, I should be able to just get a membership for that.
Oh man, just for that one item.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
Reason we have 36 off.
Oh. We'll take blame on that, actually.
It's interesting that we have it broken up already. But yeah, I like simplification.
Yeah,
And because if you do go to a membership at the gym, it doesn't matter what piece of equipment you use, you pay the same amount.
exactly. That's what I'm looking for too.
So yeah, I'm just reinforcing your logic.
Cool, thank you. Next item down with that, offering a 10% across the board for military, veterans, and first responders, that 10% discount for all of our memberships and punch passes. What we've had previously is you've had the military option for the daily, and then you would have an option for just themselves. But we never had anything available for like their spouse or for their family. And we've had a few people come in and say, you know, my husband's out, you know, on duty now, and, you know, it'd be nice if the family could get some compensation for, you know, their service for our nation. And I felt like that would be easy enough too, just to say, let's get a discount across the board for all of our membership options and daily options at that point. Okay. Other points as I go on the next couple, I'll probably skim through them fairly quick just because they're more of verbiage change and making access easier for other groups that I've been noting over the past 6-7 years. Changing a senior couple to household senior couple. That way we keep things within house and they're not trying to get other people from, you know, their neighbors or whatnot to try to join their membership just for that reason. Adult couple, I want to change it to just a household couple. And that will open up a lot of opportunities. We get some families where dad just comes down with their daughter and the rest of the family doesn't want to swim. It's not that cost friendly with the other options we had, but this way you can get a good, decent price just having a couple membership option as a household couple. Once again, opening up more opportunities for the community. Changing family to household family, just as clarification. I mean, it's already been followed as such, but wanted to make sure everybody understands that it's a household family membership. So if we do change the daily admission, that would affect our punch passes. So with that, then we would need to see an increase in the punch passes. Not a big jump if you notice. It would go from like a child senior 10 visit just up $5. The 20 visit would be up about 15, I believe. And you can see how they correlate. Adult would be up 10, adult 20 would be up 30, and senior reflects our youth one that we've done already anyways. I have been analyzing these numbers fairly close. You still would get a discount getting a punch pass over the daily admission cost for any of the options listed. So yeah. Aside from that, going down again, only thing I wanted to add to the swim lessons is tacking on with adult lessons. We have different class opportunities where I can make a class for adults and just having that the same fee that we'd offer for our levels 1 through 6 swim lesson sessions of $45. Going on there, on the back of this page of the proposed rates, you can see for reservations, we've offered locker rental for a while, but it hasn't been on the rate sheet. So I wanted to make sure that was included as well. So we're doing that properly there. So, and that it's a 1 month for $5, 2 months, 10, 3 months, 15. And then I wanted to make sure we offered for the high school as well as the club just a season one because theirs is longer than those durations that we've offered before. Let's see here. A correction in what we currently have passed on our reservations. They are listed as 2-hour blocks, and I want to make sure it's clarified that they are 1 hour, 45 minutes blocks. That way we've only had a couple of people that said, well, I've read online that it's not 2 hours, and we've always had them 1 hour 45. If you've rented the pool before, you've seen it's always been 7 to 8:45 p.m. So questions on any of those before I go over the next couple? We're almost through it. Okay. Authorization to have the aquatic, like myself, you know, the division manager, the rec director, and the city manager, if we need to set up special circumstance reservations that don't follow through what we've had in our facility reservations anyways. giving some good examples like Connemore, they meet twice a month. High school, they have, from September to February that they're there 5 days a week, 2-hour blocks. We don't have something passed where we can actually accommodate that based off of what we could figure out contract wise. We're wanting that ability to be able to do so. Quiet, I would assume just continue, okay? All right, fee increase for inflatable tracks. That has become a really, really popular item. A lot of reservations want to have that track, but at the price that they're renting it, it is actually really hitting us pretty hard to try to keep up with the repairs and the replacements. Proposing to see if we could go from 50 for the track to 200 to rent the track. That way I could actually replace those items. Those items cost anywhere from about $1,000 up to $2,000 to replace one of those components. They're pretty hefty in repairs too, so. Increase to facility reservations. If you actually notice in the packets, I did include also a comparison to what other facilities do as well towards the bottom of the packet. And you can see, they are small numbers, I apologize. I just wanted to make sure you saw on the spreadsheet all the different places I've compared with Vernal, with Duchesne, Price, Mount Pleasant, Wasatch, and Richfield, what they actually do at their facilities. We are actually really, really low and really reasonable with our renting out the entire facility to the public. At $150, that is really cheap compared to what other places do.
When I rented it for the first time, I was shocked.
Yes,
That's all it was.
and most people are when they first see that. It's like, oh wow, that's a great deal.
It is so cheap.
Yes, yes. And so I'm wanting to see if we could reevaluate. That's one of the big ones that I'd want to see some changes on if we can. Every summer we book every night. Every school year, most nights are booked too on the weekends. So that's going to show that they are heavily used too. You can see on this proposed rate discussion, they would raise up about 50 per category. So instead of starting at 150, we're starting at 200. And before I capped it at the number of people of 200 plus. So we've had massive groups of people come in for free swims, and we're at like 400 people, and all they paid was for the amount of 200 that was passed through council. So one, I'm increasing it. Two, for the amount of people that come in, I'm adding more to it, so that way if they want to bring the entire town, it's going to cost a little bit more with that too. So does that make sense how that works on that table? And this, please discuss with this one. This one right here, I wanted to make sure, because I want to make sure we still have this as an option for the public, but I also don't want it to run over the aquatic center with it, so. And I was feeling that small incremental adjustments would be a good start with it.
Excuse me, quite often when people reserve it.
Like Strata, when they come out, the hospital, when they come out sometimes. Hasn't been as of recent, the past 2 years with all the crazy things going on in the world. But some of these bigger companies have brought in the numbers. We've had some free swims when previously Crescent Point came before, and the floodgates were open. We were max capacity, every staff on site basically. So there's sometimes that it gets to be a pretty heavy place when we're counting people coming through the door. Okay, I'll keep going, and if there's any questions that come up as I go through here, then I'll let you guys at the end go through it that way too, just so I don't spend too much time on just the aquatic center here. Adding a refundable cleaning deposit, a $50 to party room and facility reservations. Just to have that extra net of security. Some of the parties have been not so friendly at the aquatic center and have left some lovely presents for us to have to deal with, sometimes for an hour, sometimes 2 hours after a party. So I'm sure Caitlin could tell you about a few of those horror stories too. So
I'm sure she could.
yeah, just so that we could try to have something to start. If we find out that we need to increase that, I just wanted to start something low to start, and then I could evaluate how effective it is as the years go on. Last item I had on here as well is allowing the manager of the pool, as well as the rec director and city manager, ability to approve fee discounts for 10%, 15%, and 25%. That is going to be mainly for the intention of if we have like a holiday special, like when they have like Black Friday sales on stuff, or maybe early summer pass sales where we know we're going to have, a lineup of people Memorial Weekend. If we could offer something earlier to incentivize people to get their passes earlier. Things like that is my thoughts. But anything for these approvals, of course, it would have to be myself and at least one or two other people, as mentioned, to make sure we're covered, and I'm not going to abuse anything or anybody. So questions on, I know this is like a lot I'm trying to plow through, but is there any questions on anything that I'm bringing up today?
Sorry,
Yes, please.
I feel like, yeah, I'm asking a lot of questions.
These are
Sorry.
great. I love it.
So I think what you proposed is, I feel good about, and I know you always do your homework. Have you projected this out to see how much more revenue this would generate?
That was my question. I was gonna.
Yeah, based off of the percentages, it wouldn't be a huge amount, but it's a start. I was thinking anywhere about 10,000 only, probably roughly around, because there's not big jumps
Yeah,
with this. And like I said, my concern is especially where everything's already so high as it is. I don't know what, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that the right decision to really beef up numbers so quick where we haven't adjusted since we opened?
well, and I don't think it's a huge rate increase, though. You're talking 35 cents
For the youth,
for the youth.
and then 75 cents for the adults,
Yeah,
yeah.
to me, that's insignificant. And the other rates, I've always thought the group rate was too low. I mean,
Okay.
I've rented it several times, and
Yeah,
that is a cheap activity for a big group, honestly. So I don't think that those are out of line. Looking at the budget items, going through the budget,
yes,
I am a little bit, there's some things other questions I have. So Aquatic Center community donation. Shows that we've been getting some donations, and then 21 we didn't, 22 we got like 1,520. What were the donations that we were getting before?
I would have to dig into that to see exactly what they were for. I feel like in 2022, that wouldn't have been for our blinds. I think blinds were back in 2020 when we got the blinds for the windows.
It just seemed 18, 19, and 20 seemed pretty consistent around.
Yeah.
Well, with an average of $30,000 that are coming in as community donations.
Can I dig into that a little bit?
Yeah. And then the general admission, it looks like the general admission and the aquatic memberships have slowly waned from, in 2018 being 60,000 down to 46,000 in 2022, and the same with memberships.
Mhm.
Everything else is pretty much held solid, but we do have an increase in punch passes, so that's going to make up some of the difference between the general admission, I'm guessing.
Mhm.
We were down a little bit on swim lessons. Party room reservations were about par. We're about par on family facility reservations, or even up a little bit actually on that.
Mhm.
And holding pretty steady at the aquatic resale of the merchandise. Rentals pretty consistent, and then the club account. But then the budget I don't think that the 2023 budget, as far as revenue, really reflects accurately. I think it's a little low. And then I was just looking at the aquatic center salaries and wages. I'm guessing that's full-time, and that goes from 74,000 to 185.
And reason why is we just recently hired on another full-time employee underneath me, an
Okay.
assistant manager.
You've been the only full-time.
I've been the only full-time for the past 6 years, so
Okay,
it's been fun.
and so that makes sense there. And that's basically all my questions. But I would like to look at how it projects out like down.
Well, you asked the question, I just had the same, I was just curious, because to me, compared to others, and I agree 100% with the mayor on I think we might even still be able to light on the rental for activities and, I mean, to me, if we're gonna have a party, 50 people for $200, that's, $4, I guess that's, if we're all in the pool, I guess that's about right. I don't know. It just seems like on some of those upper ones, they're getting a pretty good deal. Maybe it drops down to about $2 or less than $2 a person. So I almost think we need to.
The other thing I've been, and if I may pipe in here. Other thing I've been really looking, besides what we have, is I've really been looking like, what do other places do within our population that are ran by a city? And the one that, unfortunately, like I said, that you have to almost have a microscope to read, shows you all those comparisons of the different facilities and what they offer.
Well, and even then, if you look at the rentals, it looks like they were higher.
Yeah, so like you look down like at private facility reservations. Okay.
We're the most complex
Yes.
by far.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I've continued what we've done for generations. It feels like with the old pool, we've always had the number breakdown. So I've continued that is what I've done. And just kind of extended it for now the fact we could handle a whole lot more people in the building off of our occupancy totals. But you can see like Vernal, it's a flat 600 regardless of the amount of people, but up to 345 swimmers. Duchesne, smaller facility, smaller town, still ran by the city, but seasonal, 125 per hour for up to 3 hours. You can see how those kind of break down. Price, it's really,
Right, ours is 2 hours, basically, right, hour 45.
yeah,
To me, of the numbers you brought up, that's the only one that I think is a little light personally.
yeah, okay.
But and I'm not trying to gouge the patrons, I just think, to be
It's
fair, we need to make sure we're charging there's an expense there.
Yes,
And I actually, if you wanna simplify it, I actually don't mind just having flat, or even put less numbers in and say up to 100 we'll charge you,
so like
arbitrarily.
100 instead of per 50.
Yeah,
For-
just, I just don't, because to me, there's still, well,
I've been there, like, where are we at?
yeah, well, and there's still a cost for the pool, there's still a cost for lifeguards, that doesn't change whether you have 50 people or 300 people, right? There's still that same
Yeah,
cost.
a few more.
Yeah, so depends on the number of people we sometimes we have to double our lifeguards, but that's insignificant in the large spectrum, but for the safety, yes, we do have to double our guard staff.
I think we're,
On your staff, so it should really be based on your staff, what you charge, right? So at what point do you have this staff and then you have to move to doubling your staff? So is it like,
okay.
does that make sense?
Yeah, so
So is it a 0 to 200 people, you have 5 staff members, and then from 200 to 400, you have 10 staff members?
I'd have to get the cookie cutter answer out kind of because there's some variables in it.
Yeah,
but
because going to Don's point, if you have to have 5 staff, whether it's 50 or 150, you should be charging the same amount.
right.
Okay.
And that's what I was gonna say, I agree 100%, I think that's where we need to be, and I think if you simplify that to 2 or 3 numbers, that's easier.
Because the 50 are really getting a screaming bill if you still have to have 4 staff members and you have 50 people, or you have 4 staff members and 150 people.
And for
50 people are getting a really good deal.
And for me, I'd rather just have one number, then we don't have to worry about counting, just you're renting the pool, this is the cost, let us know how many,
Yeah.
or 2,
2 price breaks.
yeah, and I'd be okay with that.
This amount, I can run this with 4 people.
Okay.
And then from this amount on, I have to have 2 more staff, or maybe even three tiers, but. just
So
look
it's
at your
based
staff.
off of how much staff I need, not by how many people coming in.
Yeah, that's what I recommend.
Okay. I do have that noted right here too, so.
Because then you know you're covering your costs for your staff,
Okay.
period. You know,
No, I don't disagree with that. I was thinking about another thing, rent up the outdoor and indoor pool at times. And do we have, like, if you're only renting out the indoor pool, do you still allow patrons to come in for the outdoor pool, or how's that work?
So if they rent just one of the 2 pools, then they just get one of the 2 pools because we have to prep. That's simple enough. If it was by just pool, there's 4 guards per pool. So we'll have up to 8 guards if they get both pools combined. There's other variables in it too, depending on how many, youth, infants and other things that will determine, but the max I guess would be 8, so.
Okay. I was just thinking like maybe an on-season and off-season and just have the outdoor pool, indoor pool all come in one package and just charge a general price. Just to simplify, but,
Okay.
only if it makes sense.
has anybody during the summertime when both pools are open, have they ever just rented one?
Mhm.
Okay, that's weird.
Most of it, yeah, they do. And in fact, then sometimes then you get multi-party ones, and then we
Yeah.
have to make sure that, okay, this party has the outdoor, this party has the indoor. So
Okay.
a lot of them,
More
yeah,
money by renting both out
Yeah.
separate.
you
So-
can, yeah,
I would keep that distinction then.
okay.
The only thing, other thing that I would mention, and I know I mentioned it to the council or comment, and, you know, you can continue with whatever, is, the elephant in the room also is the school district, you know. They haven't contributed anything, and I think what we need to do, and we've kind of assessed this as well, but as we go and we make this fees change, again, I don't think it's something that we go to the school district and say, hey, will you help us out with this? We just say, hey, you're utilizing the pool this much. And so the total cost, I don't care what our subsidy is, the total cost of the pool is $691,000 a year. And so you utilize the pool, this percentage, you want us to have it ready and available for swim meets and these things. Here's your portion of. If you want to use the pool, and if they don't use the pool, guess what? Our subsidy doesn't change. But if they do use the pool, then they pay their fair share and our subsidy goes down.
Okay.
I think that's how we approach
I think
it.
it's fair, but I think it's something that the mayor and city manager and the superintendent and school.
Yeah, that should be on
Yeah.
the school board
We will.
meeting Thursday.
Well, I just.
Yeah, no, I agree with
This
that.
out so that
Yeah.
I think they ought to pay
I
what
think
they're
that's
using for.
that's what's coming down.
All of the swimmers are paying though, the pass though, to get in, right? I mean,
That is
that-
correct. But the school has asked us to waive those fees, so we've told the school, hey, you pay your fair share on the pool and we'll give you your times and everything of when you can come and swim. We do have a couple hours where they come and swim. They could potentially swim without.
Without the team. So like they have their own time that the swimmers are paying for that they practice at, but they have memberships so they can come to like lap swim times and other times too to swim on their own. But yeah,
So that was the rub when we did have, because they were practicing outside of the time that was allocated to them, then they were asked to buy a pass.
I thought all of them had to have a pass, you know, if they're on the swim team, just to come and swim.
That's currently what's happening. That hasn't always been the case.
Oh, okay.
And so when we made that change, the school district was a little bit concerned that we were then charging. And then we also told them, but with the swim meets and things like that, we're giving them time for the school to come and they're not paying anything. So yeah, they pay the pass, but the swim meets are outside of the time that we've allocated for them to. So we're really dedicating hours for them to swim. And since they have the pass, then they can come swim at other times too. So we're really kind of, Edwin has really
The hours that we
accommodated them and catered to them, but without much reciprocated there, so.
I think the hours we close the pool to the patrons and have only the swim team there, they should be paying for the
And that's what
operation.
we've looked at, yes.
Well, in the district, in fairness to them, they're saying the state requires if a student has a fee waiver and you're charging a fee, then they have to, that's where they're coming across, because that's a concern if the kid's required to get a pass on that end. But
Yeah.
regardless, that's a discussion item for Thursday, or supposed to be, so hopefully we'll get the ball rolling on getting a dialogue and an agreement put together.
One thought, and I went and looked at because the school district does subsidize other areas in the county and other buildings and things. I've been wondering about what the best approach would be to get, they pay the O&M on the community center up in Paviona. I went and looked at that. We found out how many people actually live in Paviona. So I'd like to know what the subsidy is for that building, because really it benefits, I think, what did we decide, 150 people is what the population of Paviona is. And so if you break that out, I mean, there's so many ways to look at that. But even per capita, if we were to say, well, you're paying $10 per capita here, then, you know, if you applied that same ratio to Roosevelt, you know, it would be $70-some thousand, so.
Well, those are discussions you guys get to have. I'm just gonna try to get them going.
How do we find, what would be the best? Would B Miles be the best, or would we have to grammar request that, I guess? We could have Sunshine grammar request that.
To the subsidy.
Yeah, would you be willing to do that? Because that's one of the pieces to the puzzle when we have those discussions. We need to make sure that we bring that to the table and say, hey, you're doing this in other areas. We just want to be treated fairly.
Right.
On my side, the only other thing I had right here is actually Rhonda, when she stepped out, of course, was answering my question if I had no idea what those donations were for. They were strata donations that they donated 25,000 each year in 2018, 2019 is what she listed.
And those were supposed to continue they were supposed to do a total of 250,000 to the pool. And so those should continue for 10 years after the construction of the pool. So if they haven't, we need to go to them and ask them to.
That's good to know. I had no idea.
That's just going off of memory, but I'm 99% sure that is how that went down. They had donated 40 million to the pool.
But over a 10-year period.
Right, hospital was 500,000, and I think theirs was a lump sum. Crescent Point was 250,000, and theirs were the naming rights on the outdoor. And so, but yeah, I believe Strata was on the hook for 250,000. And so you might look.
I only went to 2018, but we can look to see,
When was
because
the pool
we,
constructed?
2016,
So it was completed in 2016. It was started just the summer prior.
Maybe it was only 150, but memory serves me correctly, it was 250. I would just look at that and see.
I'll look back and see what they did before.
Okay. That is all that I had on my side. So
Good job.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You have set the bar high.
You've done a fantastic job.
thanks for your time.
That was very detailed. I like it.
You know, I have a mathematician in here. If I don't, he's going to be asking. So
Right.
hope I'm doing better than in ninth grade geometry.
This isn't geometry, so it's okay.
Okay, those are the discussions for the fee schedules. As you see, kind of the format is exactly what just happened here, where we'll discuss, get input from the council. Edwin can go back, make those changes, and that way when he presents a fee schedule proposal, you will have seen it, you'll have input on it, and we can hopefully present exactly what you would like to approve. So, thank you for that.
Did you want to go over the airport hangar lease discussion, or is that already talked about?
No, I'll hit that briefly. Next, airport hangar lease discussion. That is, as was stated earlier, that we are looking at doing that. Grant is working on that, those discussions. The airport hangar, we're getting ready to bid out the roof repairs there as well. So we wanted to inform council, keep you up to date that is moving along forward. We are making progress on that. The airport board has recommended an agreement to Grant. Grant is gonna make it much better, and he's doing a wonderful job there, so. The agreement they gave to Grant was about a paragraph long, so he's gonna make it more workable, but our airport board is great though, and I'm not trying to downplay them. They've been great in reviewing those as well, being very active, so. We just want an update to council that is progressing, it is moving along. We know there's been some concern there with the airport hangars leases.
Interfaith budget.
I'll handle that one as well. So as you know, we have an interfaith committee. It has been organized. We are requesting that council give them a $2,500 budget for their lunches or other activities that they deem necessary. They will have to appoint officers to manage that, and they will have to operate as a committee with formal noticing for their meetings, minutes, things such as that nature. But we wanted to make sure council feels comfortable with that if we put it on the next agenda to formally give them $2,500 for their interfaith budget.
I'm only supportive if they'll invite me to a meeting. I'm supposed to be on the committee and they've yet to invite
Tomorrow
me.
at noon.
If you're invited.
Tomorrow at noon?
Yes. And
Where at?
here.
Okay, I've been yet to be told and I'm supposed to be on that.
Will you make sure, is it you and who else is on there?
I don't know who else. I just know I'm on it. I can be there tomorrow here.
So as of right now, they do not have appointed officers, they don't have a secretary.
And that's part of the problem, is the interfaith council has been pretty loose up until this point. And they wanted to be a little bit more formal, just try to get more participation in things and to make it more of a Roosevelt City thing versus a certain denomination thing. And that has been working. We have been getting better participation, but it's a work in progress as well. Part of the reason for the $2,500 is Josh mentioned this for the meals and things. That's because those have been being paid for out of the council pockets. And so people have taken turns, but there's also some people in the committee that may not be able to afford a $200 bill to pay for a lunch for the whole council. And we don't want people not to come because if they think, well, it might be my turn this time. And we just decided it would be better for Roosevelt City to pay for those meals so that nobody feels, that's not a deterrent for people to come and participate, and nobody feels pressured into.
Well, I'll be here tomorrow, but that was my only concern, because I talked to, a couple, but they've never followed up and got me an invite to the meeting, so.
Yeah, tomorrow, and I just got a text today, like, hey, remember lunch and meeting tomorrow. So, we'll try to have those, and as the agenda, and we get the officers, that'll go through Sunshine probably, and she'll send out the agenda and make all the invitations.
I'm supportive of that, I think that's reasonable. But we can't vote on it till next time, so.
Correct.
Sunshine.
I'll introduce this as Sunshine's coming over. She will present on this one. So next we have the public information policy update. As you know, we have a public information officer, Sunshine, she's pretty fantastic. We have a great policy in place, but there are, for lack of better terms, handcuffs on this when we need to get information out. So Sunshine and I have reviewed this. We have some suggested recommendations to make sure that we can get the information out to the public as fast as possible, yet with the correct oversight. So we're making sure that things are accounted for and that they're reviewed. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Sunshine.
Great. Pretty solid introduction. So the documents I've just handed out to everybody, you'll notice anything in red is wording that I would suggest adding or some approximation of that. Text with a strike through is things that I felt were either not helpful or not sufficient. So we can just kind of go through this really quickly. In the top section, management, I wanted to add a bullet point that kind of more specifically separates the PIO from the recorder, as that way they have the freedom to, appoint whoever they want as the PIO rather than acting as the PIO when they're the recorder. And so some of that, a lot of the first page is really just clearing that up and making those responsibilities a little more specific. The things that I'm really concerned with are going to start on this next page. You see a lot of red. Mostly, clearing up that we should have oversight not just over written publications, but over social media and verbal communication as well. Let's see here.
Is that oversight on the stuff that we put out or also?
No, oversight not for your personal, not council members, but yes, oversight for what we put out. So, for example, the old policy wanted, my understanding of it was prior to me releasing pretty much anything, whether that's a post saying that we're looking for new planning and zoning members or post saying that the city office is closed. The way that the policy read to me was that any of that needed to be approved by the city manager as well as the mayor prior to it being able to be released, which, there's a lot of things where, yes, there does need to be that oversight and there does need to be that, checking, but that also hampers me being able to get out a lot of important information.
And Sunshine had brought that up as a concern, and she's right in the concern. There's a lot of information that can be put out there it's just general information that can be put out there. Really, right. The only part, this doesn't read like all information being disseminated. I don't think it was ever intended that way. What it was intended, and Councilman Baird and I experienced this personally, where we had a PIO officer putting some things out there that hadn't been run through, maybe setting the department head that was over that, and, you know, maybe 2 or 3 of us to make sure that we all agreed that that's what the city's stance was on a certain issue. Now, what time, you know, the planning and zoning is being held and everything else, like, who cares? Like, it's all set. But when it comes to one of the things that we saw, and I don't want to be putting words in your mouth, so is like ordinances and things, clarification, or, you know, certain like controversial things happening in the city. There was these responses and these things going out unilaterally. And what was happening is there's quite a bit of backlash, and I'm okay with the backlash as long as there's been an agreed upon front, like, hey, we agree this is the position we're gonna take on this. Because then when we get the backlash, we're well aware of it, and it's seen it, you know, there's several people that have seen it and agreed. But one, there was a lot of misinformation going out, and 2, there was a lot of backlash coming in because nobody had any idea about it. And we're like, oh, why are we the last ones to know about these things when they are controversial or a heated topic or something like that? So that was the mechanism. I'm not saying it's perfect, but that was the mechanism to use so that, I mean, we had the animal shelter was a hot topic. We had certain ordinances. That were a hot topic.
Particularly conditional use permit clarifications that were being sent out.
That were not accurate. So there was several things that were being done unilaterally, not accurate, which confuses the public, stirs up the public, and then we're left to just take the beating. And we didn't even have any kind of we're like, what the heck?
Yeah, it was all in good intent, but it just was, you know, the intent was really good, but it was incorrect. You know, the information was incorrect.
And I've talked with the mayor about the intent of this, and I respect the intent of it. And maybe it's just my interpretation, but I just felt there were some areas where the intent didn't really manifest in that document. You couldn't actually approach it that way. If you're someone like me and you want to only do exactly what the document says you can do, it was somewhat limiting. And then also in other areas, I felt like not enough protection, right? It doesn't really go into addressing how things like social media for the animal shelter and the golf course and the aquatic center are managed, right? Those are all auxiliary accounts that, you know, the PIO has really no, at this point, mechanism for oversight on those accounts. So those are, you know, and I'm not saying that there's been huge problems with them, but they're not addressed, and that is a potential area for concern. And there have been things that have come up with, you know, animal shelter posts since I've been here that have been an issue. So I tried to draft something that would almost have tiers, right? Where there are some situations where I can just go, yes, the city office is closed. There you go. Nobody has to approve it. I know it's closed. It's on the calendar. I can publish that. And then another tier of information that needs to be approved by the department head, succeed to the mayor and the city manager. And then a third tier of information that's not going anywhere until the department head and the city manager and or mayor have approved it. So kind of adding a little bit more clarity and specificity, I think would be really helpful for me. To know that I'm working within the policy, and then also for any future PIOs, so that, you know, they're not having to figure this thing out through trial and error.
So it looks like 2 tiers that you've recommended, correct? So you have the first tier, which is just the city manager and the department head, and that's basically just general information.
In here, and then, let's see.
Well, it looks like it's the department head and the PIO. The city manager should just send a copy via email, just to be aware, but these are just the things.
Yeah, and then you get into press releases, social media posts about
And
public
they have to be
emergencies,
approved.
things like that. Those will need to be approved. You're right, I did miss the section of, you know, the city office is being closed. I can just make that call on my own. That's not present.
Yeah, and I think this kind of did.
Yeah.
You and I talked about this before, and I think this addresses kind of the concerns that we had.
Yeah.
The press releases, the things that are a little more, you know.
Sensitive or,
Sensitive.
yeah.
And I would just say city manager or I would just say city manager and mayor. I would like to have an elected official on those types of things. And that probably should go, one thing that I have seen, and not that the elected official has to have well, anyway, those things normally go to the whole council, like, hey, this is a big deal. FYI, I'm putting this out there. Not that they have to respond back and say, yeah, we're okay with that. But,
Right, not for approval, just for their awareness.
yeah, and I think I think it ought to be the city manager and the mayor and the department head. And I would also include our city attorney on that.
For the, okay.
Yeah.
For
so
the
reason
approval.
is, I run everything through Grant because he's gonna be able to immediately say, you know what, you might want to change the verbiage on that. That might bring some liability on the city that we don't want. And so that was the group that we had established for that. Grant, city manager, myself, and the department head are over that. I know that's a few more people in.
No, I think that's great. Yeah.
Grant keeps us out of hot water.
I mean, CCing people is not difficult and it's all still in that same, it's also in that same tier, right? I definitely, I'd be wary to get into the area of having to get a large number of approvals for basic information. Like I'm working with Kirby on a post about some statistics about our snowplows, right? How many plows we have, how much snow there's been, how many miles of city streets there are, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that definitely falls in this top.
Yeah.
too.
Like all of you might be interested in seeing that, but does everyone, do we need legal advice on
We
that?
have a 16 case and scandal at the high school. That's probably in this.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Or the second.
So unless there are any, I mean, obviously please review this and if you'd like to make any markups and your own suggestions, I totally love getting annotated documents back. That works for me. You can tell me things that you see that need to be different. The direction I could use, some of the bigger concerns that I have that are still kind of unanswered, would be again dealing with those auxiliary social media accounts. What I've been kind of thinking about is adding just a smaller subsection. Where is it? I think on this last page, where it talks about, only authorized individuals named within the account, to outline some circumstances under which who has control over those accounts, like the aquatic center. I presume it's just Edwin, but making sure we have things in policy, like you're not going to leave the social media open, and so any staff member can just post whatever they want. And here are the types of posts that department heads or the managers and things like that can just go ahead and post, versus when does the PIO need to get involved? When do they need to reach out to me and say, hey, should I maybe be cautious about this? Does this need additional approval? That's an area where I could use some direction.
And those are independent of the elected officials' accounts, right? Because they're kind of,
I'm talking about specifically golf course, animal shelter, aquatic center.
yeah, just.
So additional city facility pages.
What are you, and that's where you're talking in the security, this.
Yeah, well, I'm just talking about adding some information about how those accounts should be managed.
Oh, okay.
Because,
Sorry, I'm back on it.
there are pretty good guidelines as far as how I should be managing the main city account, but there's really no mechanism for oversight or anything.
So
For
we
all the
have
other
like
accounts.
the APR account and thing like.
Yeah,
things like
so and I have admin access to all of those, but I don't do the posting. I sometimes look at them and go, okay, how are things going, but I don't
Would
do
you
the
like a little
posting.
more oversight on those?
I think that I don't necessarily want more oversight on those, but I think it would be wise. As a matter of policy, I don't respond to comments on Facebook. I see it as, we're putting information out there. That's not an approved dialogue.
Is that in this policy? 'Cause that's.
I believe it is, yes.
We don't, unless it's to answer a simple question.
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing.
Like, we don't engage with the public.
Prohibition against public.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the prohibition against public dialogue, let's see. See address. Yeah, so this, honestly, so the biggest place I see that is on the animal shelter. They really do a good job of utilizing social media to, publicize the dogs that they have available and get them adopted, which I think is great. But there's a lot of back and forth. And I haven't seen anything bad, but the volume of content to moderate is huge. So the potential for something to come up and there to be, an argument or bad press or some sort of something that goes wrong that I don't catch is pretty big, right? When you have threads of 50 and 60 comments on a picture that shelter employees are responding to, right? And again, I haven't seen any inappropriate responses from them, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen.
Yeah. I think that comes down to a training though as well. I mean,
Right.
because it is hard to monitor, just make sure that anybody that's dealing with those pages are trained. We don't engage with the public other than just informational purposes.
Don't you do safety or other trainings with the staff on that kind of stuff? Because I know I thought I'd been to one where that was kind of brought up, so I think that's important.
I did do a training once, and that's actually something I wrote into the policy, is that anybody who, in order to have access to city social media accounts, you have to use your own personal account. And so, I made a recommendation that it be in policy that there be required amount of password changes for those individual users, and then also annual cybersecurity training.
Yeah, because I remember sitting in one of those.
I think like a lot of bigger agencies, I work for a big agency, and like they have policies where they have people like in a different office, way up here reviewing all the different posts before they go out. I don't think we necessarily need to do that if we can get training to different department heads and just make sure they understand what content's appropriate and what's not before they come
Yeah.
to you.
And that's where I think having a robust policy is helpful, so that there's policy to back up the training. So I'm not just saying, this is how I think it should be.
I like it. I think what you're doing is good. So.
Yeah, I would say I'm not a fan of reinventing the wheel. I would just make sure you run a past grant and also compare to other cities if there's anything maybe that you have that maybe we haven't thought of is all. But I think this is a pretty good basis where we're at, but I agree with the mayor, running things by grant, adding especially those press releases, maybe run it by grant and mayor as well as the city manager for those major things, and
Yeah,
then
I think that's
just
great.
comparing to, you might read, oh, they have this in their policy, I didn't think about that,
Mhm.
and, it's just sometimes good to have another,
And anything that's going to be controversial, I know that on here it says just the city manager, mayor, but I think we should know about it because we're thinking.
Well, I think it would be good to at least
We don't have
contact
to
city
necessarily-
manager, the city council, just so we're aware, so when
Yeah.
we get the phone calls, we
Yeah.
know what's coming, but I don't think we have to. But it'd be nice to know ahead of the press release, so then when people start calling us, we're already aware that.
That was kind of what I took from the mayor's comment was, he and the city manager and grant for approval, but prior to posting, including all the council members, just so you're aware.
Yeah, I think that's good. So-
Yeah, and I don't usually give feedback, I'm not going to critique or say, oh, you shouldn't. put this. Unless there's something that's catastrophically wrong with it, in my opinion. So.
I think it's good.
I think it was
you.
really good.
Thank you. That's all I have on that.
that.
Should we just
The
go right into
website,
it?
yeah.
Okay, we can just go right in. Brian, can you go to the first page, which is top level information? So, our website is hosted by Civic Plus and it's built, they manage it. I manage the content on it and the users, but they control the website design and all of our information. And we're to the point in our contract where we get to go over and do reviews and potential redesigns. So they provided us with some information, which is kind of interesting. You have top level information. They think we have about a 6,000 population, actually 6,881. So a few more than I think. This is showing, so total users, that's between January 1 and December 31st, 2022. You can see all that. The big number here I'd like to point out is that 1 minute and 38 seconds. Ideally, so their average time range that they're looking at is 1 to 4 minutes time on a page. 4 minutes means that the citizen is probably having a really hard time finding what they're looking for, and so they're there forever. It's also a little arbitrary though, because it could mean that they found something that's really great and they're staying there for a long time reading it, right? So you kind of have to take this number with a big handful of salt and your own experience with our website. Also having a really low time, that could mean they're immediately finding what they're after, or it could mean that they're immediately realizing they're not going to find what they're after and they're giving up. We're kind of right in the middle, 1.5 minutes. My personal experience with the website and fielding questions and helping citizens find things, I do unfortunately think we're a little closer to the realizing I'm not going to find what I'm after, so I'm giving up side of things. That being said, if you go to the next slide, the top pages, I do think the Aquatic Center skews our numbers. Their page is really great. Top page visits, 5 times over the next visited page. And then if you compare that to, on the very next sheet, oh, sorry, 2 more down, if you go to top search terms. So they're number 6 on search terms and number 1 on visited pages. And what that tells me is that nobody's having to go to our search bar to find what they're looking for when they're looking for information about the aquatic center. They're able to go directly to the aquatic center and find the information they need. If we go back to our top visited pages, the second one is the animal shelter. They're also number 1 in searches. This is telling me people are going to the animal shelter page a lot, looking for information and not finding it. So that kind of gives you an idea of where I'm really interested in, capitalizing on the success we already have and fixing the things that people are looking for and aren't able to find. So let's see, are there any other numbers we really need to go over on this? We have top downloaded documents. The biggest thing, again, I take from this, I see it from a records management perspective. I really would like to get a more consistent format in how we are naming our documents and how they appear, because there is a little bit of clarity issues there, but people are mostly downloading Aquatic Center documents. So good job, Edwin. Your page is super accessible.
Did you make the page?
So Edwin is pretty much the only department head who actually has access to manage and update his own page, and I don't have to do anything for him. He goes in there and is able to post his why am I losing the word? You make a newsletter. Publish his newsletter. He has his Facebook feed live on there. So he manages that all, and I don't have to do anything. We do have some ADA issues with alt text. That's on me. I was entering the alt text in the wrong place. So I was posting content explaining what the images were. I just wasn't doing it in the right box. And the broken links have been fixed as well. So this is a pretty good lead into an opportunity that we have we're at a place in our contract where we get a free, what they call ultimate redesign. So it's already paid for, it's no additional cost, and it's basically to take this information and restructure the website so that it's more accessible for our citizens and features the things we really want it to feature. And of course, that's an opportunity for us to update, colors and visuals while we're there. So
I think the majority of us would be agreeable to that. Do you have an idea? You'll get an idea of how much that will cost to restructure?
it's free.
Oh, it's free.
Yeah.
That's
Well, I
It-
can afford that.
Yeah, there are some upgrades, like there, and that I'm particularly interested in. I talked about the capitalizing on the aquatic center. I'm not super good with their technical verbiage, but basically it would give the recreation department their own website within our website. So it would still be branded the same, it would still look the same, it would still link from our homepage, but once you were there, all those top level menus would, be only reflective of recreation department information. There are features like that that could be added to the redesign, but we get a very robust redesign for free.
I don't even think we have to even hear it again.
Yeah,
I mean, it would
just do it. Yeah, just get her done.
Are there any other questions about anything or feedback? I can be done, let you guys move on.
I think we're good. I know we have a couple of councilmen that need to leave here in just a few minutes. And so, if we could go move to the logo design for discussion, I think that's the last item for purchase orders.
I'll take a step and pass it down.
Keep one.
Sorry,
Keep
Dusty.
one.
Hey, there's 2 papers for each one. Sorry, they're coming around this way. I needed to keep one. Yeah. So what I have before you now is, we need to come up with logos for our nature park, our innovation hub. I want to clarify, disclaimer right off the bat, staff is not choosing for council. Council has the ultimate say. One thing you have all the choices you need on the sheets in front of you. Just kidding. But what we needed to do is we needed placeholders. We needed something in place. So we actually got together and we got some designs, and we actually do own these designs. We can use them as secondary designs. We can use them as paperweights. We can use them as garbage things. But what we did is we wanted to show what it would look like if we get some designs and we start branding these things. Our innovation hub, our nature park, we're getting our benches really close to getting made through UB Tech. So we do need to move forward with some of these designs. There's different ways to go about having contests to get them, but we do need to make sure that when we get these designs that we actually truly do own them. Because we can't just find a design out there, start using it. These are two examples of ones that we do own. We own these designs now. We can use them as we want. They're trademarked. There's a very inexpensive way to go about it and do it. So that's what we're just presenting tonight to show you kind of the direction we're headed, what we're looking for. Get more feedback from council. Is again, we can use these designs, we can get new designs, we can start a new process, but we need placeholders in place right now. So please don't think you are stuck with these designs.
I just had a question on the next part. How come the Owen
I
Roosevelt?
was just looking.
So that is, I actually went into a program and took out the background to superimpose these onto these other images, and I messed up and left the
Okay,
old.
I was gonna say that's kind of.
That was me when I took out the background. So
I think they both look good. I just that O was kind of
yeah, the O actually looked like the other O.
okay.
Again, I just removed the background.
Hey, if you had like a chain coming down off that.
Yeah. There you
Yeah, if
go.
I just superimposed them into other locations, you can see. So we can come back to those later, but I want to give you a heads up where we're going, what we're doing as we start branding stuff.
And I made the comment in the beginning, just about, this is our choice, we get one choice. Yes, it's taken or no, but I really do, I think they've done a good job.
Yeah, I like both of them. I don't know that. I mean, if we already own these, I don't know.
Do we have any artists on the council that have any?
Well, the only thing you could consider is maybe open up to the community to have a contest to see if somebody.
As long as we don't guarantee that they're local kids.
Yeah.
That is the biggest feedback I've had
But
for
what I
local.
would almost say is if we did want a choice, put it up to the public and just have several options of what do you like the best. That's how you kind of.
Right. No, I think they look
I know a guy
good.
who does logos, he's really good. It's about $500 a logo, and he'll work with you till you have what you like.
I know
Well, maybe
someone,
it's
he
proper
works
name.
at the paper, and his logo has actually been chosen by Brigham City and another place in the police department, he's really good. And he did something for the chamber too, I think all he wanted was like a t-shirt or something. They owned it.
Might talk with him and just get a couple ideas.
Yeah.
If it wouldn't be too.
Yeah, we can go around and get some different ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't
He's good.
really care as long as it's professional.
Yeah. I do too.
Okay, we can look at getting some more and bringing them back to council.
Thanks, Josh.
You bet.
Mr. Bates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We have,
I move we approve the financials. You have them there in front of you, Mayor.
I'll second it.
they have a motion and a second to approve the purchase orders. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. I don't know what's on the second page. City manager report.
Okay, I have couple quick things. I'll do it really quick. One, I wanted to address snow removal with council in a public meeting. As you know, there's been a big issue of snow removal on sidewalks downtown. A lot of concern. People have been reaching out to the city. We have reviewed it with our legal counsel, with our public works director. The city does have an ordinance in place that the business owner is responsible for removing that snow. If the city does get involved, we do open the door for potential liability or potential expectations that the city is now going to continually remove that snow. So we have been informing individuals that it is the business owner's responsibility to remove that snow.
I have a concern, more of a, something that bothers me about snow removal. When a lot of times when the roads get plowed, that snow gets blown over onto the sidewalk, and it's a pain in the butt to get it off. So we may be getting some frustrated people
Definitely.
because of that. And I don't know what the answer is. We want the roads cleared, and when we have lots of snow, but it's makes it a lot more difficult to get the snow off the sidewalk after the plow has added 6 or 8 more inches.
Slush in the ice. That's a concern. The slush, the salt in the ice on the sidewalk. I mean, when it freezes and then trying to get that off with the regular snow shovel can be difficult.
Absolutely. And that is our biggest concern is people will be out there, they'll shovel their walks, UDOT comes by, throws it right back on.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the way the ordinance is written, the city can't assume that responsibility to clean it for them, as much as we wish we could.
I wonder, one thing, and just for discussion, we probably don't need to take any more time on it, is just the plowing it in the center and then scooping it up and hauling it off, I don't know, instead of plowing it on the sidewalks. I know of some areas that do that.
Yeah, that, you know, it just, it's so much resources and time and
Yeah.
people and loading it, where do you take it, where do you dump it? It's always been designed, the snow, but is to remove snow, it's the safety of the roadways.
Yeah.
So the plows are designed to roll it over. I instruct my guys all the time to try to be careful and not roll it on the sidewalk. But like a year like this, where there's really nowhere to put it, it becomes an issue.
Well, just be glad that we have
One-
snow, one thing, but
One observation I should make, I know they're trying to get things done, but the faster they go, the worse it
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah, and I will say hats off to our public works guys. The budgets are exploding between salt, overtime. This has been an incredible year. Hopefully it's incredible year for water, but an incredible year for snow. And it's been very difficult for business owners, for our public works. I mean, it's been a very tough one. So that's why I want to address it in a public meeting. Let people know we wish we could do more, but at this point, we have an ordinance in place and it is the responsibility of that business owner.
I didn't know who to talk to, but I think y'all have done a wonderful job trying to keep the streets clean. I thought it'd be fun to do an article, maybe call it Snowmageddon, and all the trucks. God, to keep our streets clean.
if you write that up, get it approved by Sunshine.
Information about our plowing that Kirby's provided that I can share with you.
I'd like to get a photo of her, all the people that work trying to clear the roads. It's a lot of work. Yeah.
Just to make one more comment about, so as you guys notice, it's tough, but we try to get the pavement showing. There's another reason for that. Water lines could possibly freeze. Frost, as you know, you drive over it, more you drive over it, pounds it down, which just causes issues for some of our water lines that may not be at the proper depth.
Yeah.
So there's another reason why we try to open the roads, of course, for safety, number one, and traffic. But that's another thing that people don't realize. By getting that asphalt to show, it saves water department, water line breakage, and a lot of freeze-ups.
Okay, a couple more quick things. One, I just want to tell council again publicly, we had a phone call today about when free trash day is. And just so you know, I did inform, Marianne informed them that at this point that will need to get approved through council because there is an expenditure to that. So they will be reaching out so we can coordinate that time frame. But I did want to let you know I'm not going to commit the city on that because that should be a council decision.
I think what we need to do, do you have an invite to the county council meeting
No,
recently?
not recently.
When we have the next county council meeting, I think we bring it up to the county and we say, this is a county-wide free dump day. Roosevelt City residents pay the same property tax in the county plus Roosevelt City property tax. The county residents are getting the same benefit based on their lower property tax. I feel like that should be, if it's a county-wide cleanup day, the county should, if it's a free cleanup day, they should fit the bill for that. Whole county.
Great idea. Well, we will coordinate with them. I just want to let everybody know that's where we're at in that. And with K&K, again, I have reached out to them, planning to have a meeting. He said he's really busy right now, understandably with all the snow and everything, but we have been in contact there. Okay, last two things. We have two, I need some volunteers from council members. One, we have our ball fields that we're moving forward with that. And I'm looking for a couple council members to meet with the mayor and I and the engineers as we go down line item by that as we progress forward, how we're going to handle our future projects. So I know there's some council members not here, but if I can have.
I don't think Councilman Allen and Councilman Cloward would want, I'm happy to do it, but I would check with Councilman Allen.
Yeah, I see.
Let's put on them, and if Councilman Allen can't do it, I'd be happy to.
Okay.
But please reach to him first.
Okay, so we'll send you guys an invite to that meeting. The next one is very similar. As you know, our cemetery is getting filled to capacity. I know the city has looked in the past at what we need to do to expand that. I would like to get a committee together so we can start moving forward and have a good place and plan. The best way to do that is include some of the council members and mayor, so I prefer to have 2 council members join us on that exploratory committee to get that process rolling, just so we know people are dying to get in there, but we gotta get a plan.
Then you gotta laugh out of Mary Ann. Yeah, I'm happy to be involved with that.
Okay. Anybody else? Rowdy? Okay. Perfect. One thing is we get a lot of these projects. I think it's gonna be very beneficial as we have these meetings. If we can get a couple council, we can't have a full quorum, but if we can have council members and the mayor at those meetings as we go along, then when it gets back to council, you guys can give the updates, which you're the policy makers, you're the decision makers. So help us move those programs along. That's all I have.
Unless anybody has anything else, I'm gonna go straight to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Second by Councilor Powers. We're adjourned. Thank you.